Tanzania honors iconic resort-oriented Sokoine. Simbazi Basin Development Project in the offing. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us. I am Teddy Parinyanga. You can also follow us live via YouTube channel TBC Online and also get all the latest news through our Instagram, Facebook and X pages at TBC Online. President Samia Suluhu Hassan has instructed all the government leaders in the country whose regions have been affected by floods to cooperate with the citizens to ensure that they minimize the effects of floods. President Samia gave the instructions during the commemoration of the 40th anniversary of Edward Moringe Sokoine's life, held in the village of Nguiki in the Monduli district in the Arusha region, insisting the government will carry out a detailed investigation on the floods and take appropriate measures to eliminate the problem. Here's a report by Sichelela Kongola, read by Faida Ngaga.
A special service to commemorate the 40th anniversary of the death of the former Prime Minister Edward Sokoine, which has been attended by various government leaders as well as the residents of Monduli and its surroundings. President Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan is here and she directs all government leaders in the country whose regions have been affected by floods to cooperate with the citizens to ensure that they minimize the effects of floods.
Tushirikiane na wananchi kuhakikisha.
Let us cooperate with citizens in making sure the effects of floods are reduced. After the rain season ends, the government conducts a thorough investigation to determine the real reason behind the floods in those areas, so that we can take necessary steps to eradicate such effects from happening again on the long run. President Samia Suluhu Hassan emphasizes on the responsibility and integrity qualities that Edward Sokoine has left as a legacy, insisting other leaders to emulate.
Katika maisha ya hayati Edward Sokoine ni kuhusu kuwajibika.
The late Edward Sokoine has left the legacy of responsibility and accountability. This has been noted by many. The late Sokoine insisted on this fact, and on his speeches, he stood on it through his actions. I have seen another quote of Sokoine of the 26th of May 1983, which states that, as we speak of accountability and responsibility, let us all remind each other that leadership is a huge responsibility. Being accountable means a leader is willing to use their role for the benefit of the public. Various leaders use the opportunity to give their wishes.
The tradition of honoring retired leaders is a tradition that builds unity and solidarity. You can never write the history of any nation without consulting the leaders who were previously in power.
La yangu kama mkuu wa mkoa ni kuwaomba hasa madereva wa vyombo vya moto.
As RC of Arusha, I urge the drivers to be careful while on the road. Today morning, we have received information that a school bus driver has caused an accident, which has left one student dead and another one injured.
The late Edward Sokoine's family spokesperson says the late Sokoine cared about his work and his legacy will continue.
Hapa kwenye vijiji vyetu pia umeandika historia.
In our village, you have left a significant impact. You have been able to solve the challenge of clean and safe water.
The late Edward Sokoine was the Prime Minister of Tanzania, and he has left a legacy as a patriotic and hardworking government leader.
Here's a brief history of the life of the former Prime Minister of Tanzania, the late Edward Moringe Sokoine, as narrated by Faida Ngaga.
Edward Moringe Sokoine was the Prime Minister of Tanzania for 2 terms when he was first appointed as Prime Minister by President Julius Kambarage Nyerere on February 13th, 1977, and was appointed again as Prime Minister on November 24th, 1983. He held the position until April 12th, 1984, when he died. Sokoine was born on August 1st, 1938 in Monduli, Arusha region. From 1948 to 1958, Sokoine attended Monduli Primary School from 1949 to 1953 and joined Monduli Middle School from 1953 to 1956. Sokoine passed his middle school exams in 1956 and he joined Umbwe Secondary School. On January 1st, 1961, Sokoine joined the Tanganyika African National Union TANU a few months before Tanganyika gained independence. In 1962, Sokoine went to West Germany for further studies and returned in 1963. After returning from Europe, Sokoine was assigned to work as a Maasai district executive officer. In 1961, he joined the Tanganyika African National Union TANU after taking administration studies in the Federal Republic of Germany from 1962 to 1963. He then won after contesting for a parliamentary seat in the Maasai Land constituency. In 1965, he was appointed as a Deputy Minister of Works before being transferred to Defense and National Service. Sokoine has held various ministerial positions and also as a member of the Central Committee of ruling party CCM and was appointed Prime Minister in 1977. As a Prime Minister, Sokoine was an exemplary leader and focused on people-centered leadership, working closely with people of all ages, from the elderly, mothers, young people, and children, focusing on knowing their problems and search for collective solutions. The competence of his leadership was more vivid following on April 5th, 1983, when President Nyerere launched an ambitious campaign to fight economic sabotage after the passing of the Economic Sabotage Act of 1983. The late Edward Moringe Sokoine was assigned to oversee the campaign.
Leaders at all levels of the country have been urged to maintain unity and employ high-level coordination in the execution of their duties in order to foster development. The call has been made by the first President of the Pan-African Parliament and the former High Commissioner of Tanzania to India, Ambassador Gertrude Mongella, as the country commemorates 40 years of the death of the former Prime Minister Edward Sokoine. Speaking to our reporter Faida Ngaga in Dar es Salaam, Ambassador Gertrude Mongella insists that former Prime Minister Sokoine highly valued people-centered development and advocated for leadership that focuses on serving the citizens from the grassroots level.
It's now 40 years since we lost Edward Moringe Sokoine, the Prime Minister, and he was a person you will never forget, because the way he worked, the way he connected with people, the interaction we had with him in the office. He was a wonderful person, very committed to this nation, very committed to his work, and committed to the people he worked with. So late Sokoine, I can say, is among the people who has left the legacy of hard work, of cleanliness in his work, and his commitment to the nation of Tanzania.
Ambassador Mongella, what other legacies should Tanzania and indeed Africa remember Edward Sokoine for?
First of all, Edward Sokoine was a truly African Maasai man. He really was a Maasai man. And I remember at one time his wife delivered a baby, and according to the Maasai culture, he was supposed to slaughter a goat and offer the soup to all of us. So we didn't work that day for a long time, and he came in our offices, invited us to go and have soup in his house. That shows how African and how Maasai he was. Some people lose their identity as they continue to get into positions, but not Sokoine. He remained a Maasai, he remained a Tanzanian, and he remained really, truly a person who loved his family.
How much is unity important for the leaders in the country and indeed the world in the implementation of various policies and projects and indeed bringing about sustainable development?
when you look at Africa, one of the problems is that we lack coordination, unity among leaders at all levels. So once you are a prime minister, or once you are a president, or whatever position you have always to make sure that coordination between those who work together in the same offices is the same. And that's what Sokoine did. He really cared about the people he worked with. We enjoyed working with him. He did value the skills we had, all of us together. So we used to share skills. We used to share knowledge. I remember many times he borrowed my books. I'm a sociologist and a teacher by profession. So he would come into my office, and he was not shy to say, Mama Mongera, can I borrow this book? And it's very interesting, and I'll bring it back to you. And that is what a leader should be. Leaders should work closely with the people, and people not only at the national level, but also at the village level. So Sokoine was very good at that, and he didn't miss any moment of cooperation.
Chief Government Spokesperson M Hydrop says one of the government's missions for the construction of the Mwalimu Nyerere hydropower station is to reduce the flood's impact in the floods-prone areas around the Rufiji River Basin. Addressing journalists in Dar es Salaam, Matinyi clarifies that statistically the areas of Rufiji and Kibiti in the coast region are vulnerable to floods for many years.
Hatua ya kuyafungulia haya maji ilichukuliwa kwa kuangalia vipimo vya kitaalamu.
The release of excessive water from the Nyerere Dam was done in accordance with scientific measurements. The expertise considered the volume of water flowing into the dam, the water level, and how much water should be released. In these months of February and March, TANESCO has been releasing water that is 3,000 to 60,000 cubic meters of water.
Additionally, Matinyi says that the Tanzania Disaster Relief Committee continues to assess the impact and prepares a report which will then be handed over to the Prime Minister Kassim Majaliwa regarding the Msimbazi Basin Development Project. Matinyi reassures the project to start this month and will be overseen by Tanzania Rural and Urban Roads Agency, TARURA, in collaboration with the Dar es Salaam City Councils at a cost of 260 million shillings.
TARURA itashirikiana na ofisi za halmashauri za mkoa wa Dar es Salaam.
TARURA will work closely with the district councillor officers from Dar es Salaam region, especially because the Msimbazi Dam passes through more than one district council in Dar es Salaam region. This will enable the work to be done well and accurate. The Msimbazi Dam project aims to reduce the effect of flooding, to improve land use, to prevent land erosion, to restore natural vegetation, and lastly, to allow water to flow to the ocean and to store water.
As Tanzania prepares to mark its 60 years of union between Tanganyika and Zanzibar, UK Ambassador to Tanzania David Conker says his country plans to accelerate further Tanzania-UK bilateral ties, insisting for the union to be everlasting. Tanzanian government should continue to honor a people-centered approach in governance. He made the remarks when he spoke to my colleague Nasa Kingu earlier today.
The UK is a United Kingdom. We are a union. And so we understand, I think, something of the issues around having separate or distinct identities within a single overall political nation-state entity. So we would very much like to see Tanzania continue to run its affairs across the country in a way that's really resilient and sustainable for the future, for governments everywhere, wherever you are. If you're a democracy, you need to listen to the people. You need to pay attention to what they're telling you through the ballot box, but also through Parliament, through the people's representatives, whether that's the Assembly in Zanzibar or the Assembly in Dodoma. Listening is important, and then responding, being a responsive government. And where people are coming to the government, whether it's in Zanzibar or in Dodoma, with really important issues, and it's clear that they're important, I'm confident that the governments, the union government, but also the administration on Zanzibar will listen to those concerns. So we are confident that Tanzania has a bright future ahead of it, and we look forward to working with it to support that future.
Tanzania is working very hard to attain the Sustainable Development Goals, but also there are so many pressing issues like climate change, healthcare. How do you envision UK's support to the Tanzanian government on some of these key areas that to ensure that the development that we have achieved so far continues and we sustain it in one way or the other with mutual benefits with the UK?
So earlier on I emphasised the role of investment and I mentioned about the private sector. And I think the biggest thing that the UK brings to the table in this all-weather partnership with Tanzania is the private sector and the prospect of business investment. Tanzania is we all know Tanzania is a very youthful country. If you look at the demographics, most people here are under the age of 35. And it's young people, we know, like young people everywhere. They want jobs, they want prospects, they want to get on in life. 90% of all jobs in the world, globally, are created not by governments, but by the private sector, by businesses. So building up the private sector and giving that and energising that as much as we can in partnership with the Tanzanian government, I think is the single most important thing that we as a partner can do, but also that the Tanzanian government can do for its youthful population. We're already the second largest foreign investor in Tanzania. I want us to maintain that position, and I'd like us to do more trade between the countries to generate jobs. And just this morning there was an announcement of a suspension of any duty that would be paid on imports to the UK of cut flowers from East Africa. This is just one example of where Tanzania could benefit from this and by exporting more horticultural product, particularly flowers, to the UK and grow its market share there. That will in turn help to generate jobs here. The second thing that the UK has to offer, I think, is working in the international system to encourage it to be reformed in a way that can help countries like Tanzania access the financing they need on sustainable, affordable terms to tackle climate change and issues like that. And then the third, and we're already doing that, we're working very hard with the international financial institutions, the World Bank and so on, to encourage a greater focus on lending more money to the countries that most need it. And then the third thing is the specific funding that we bring on bilateral development projects. Those include in education. Therefore, it's not just the money or the funding, but the expertise that that money is able to buy and support in country.
The winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature in 2021 and the author of various books, Professor Abdul Razak Gurna, says the presence of artificial intelligence AI in the digital world does not affect the thinking ability of authors to produce creative publications, while advising the community to build books, reading culture, so as to gain knowledge. He made the remarks immediately upon his arrival at the Julius Nyerere International Airport earlier today, insisting writers to focus more on real-life events.
The whole point about writing is that the voice of the writer is an original voice. And artificial intelligence will be able to, no doubt, reproduce that voice, but we will know that it's not the original. There is some kind of writing where that might work. Some writing that uses, for example, if you're writing a detective novel, if you're writing one that uses a kind of formula to some certain extent. Like, and if you're writing really original material, then I don't think we need to worry. The more people read, the more people will write.
Professor Abdul Razak Garna is expected to be the guest of honor at the Book Writing Excellence Awards, which is organized by the Tanzania Institute of Education on the 13th of April 2024, where nominees from various parts of the country will compete in various categories. And now, before we wind up the local news tonight, let us now take a look at today's exchange rates according to the Bank of Tanzania, BOT. Don't miss TBC News every weekday to know all the latest in exchange rates. Up next is international news. And here is international news as compiled by Ramadhani Mpenda and read to you by Nasa Kingo.
The World Health Organization, WHO, has said on Friday that the crisis in Sudan could worsen in the coming months as the distribution of humanitarian aid and medical supplies remains restricted. WHO spokesperson Kristen Lindmeier has said time is running out without a stop to the fighting and unhindered access for the delivery of humanitarian aid. Sudan's crisis could drastically worsen in the coming months to come and could impact the whole region. He said medical supplies in the country were estimated at about 25% of the needs, and 70 to 80% of Sudanese health facilities were not functioning due to the conflict. Some states, such as Darfur, have not received medical supplies for the past year. He also said 15 million people were in need of urgent health assistance, and that diseases such as cholera, malaria, and dengue were spreading. Mali's ruling government has banned the media from reporting on the activities of the political parties and their associations. The order issued by Mali's High Authority for Communication was distributed on social media. The notice said it applies to all forms of the media, including television, radio, online, and print newspapers. The clampdown on the media followed a similar action on Wednesday, when the government ordered the suspension of all activities by political parties until further notice, citing a need to preserve public order. However, the press house in Mali has said it rejects the order and called on journalists to continue to report on politics in Mali. It also urged them to stand tall, remain unified, and to mobilize to defend the right of the citizens to have access to information. And Liberia's House of Representatives is investigating how former President George Weah's asset declaration documents were leaked to the public. A local legislator, Frank Foko, has said Weah's asset declaration form is now all in the public space and on various platforms. He said publishing the former president's declared asset without his consent was illegal. All senior government officials in the country, including presidents, are mandated to declare their wealth upon taking office before the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission. The former president's asset declaration documents are said to have been leaked to the public without his consent. It is meant to ensure public officials avoid conflicts of interest and illicit wealth accumulation, but it is not mandatory for such declarations to be made public. It is not clear who leaked them, but legislators have summoned senior Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission officials over the leak.
That was international news. Sport news up next. And in sports news, Simba Sports Club assistant coach Suleiman Matola believes that his team stands a big chance to beat Ihefu in the Tanzania Premier League in the epic match to be played at Leeds Stadium in Singida and close a gap with their arch-rival Young Africans. Coach Matola adds that recently lost the match to Mashujaa and poor performance has been contributed with tight schedule, especially the CAF Champions League matches, and now they're back in business to fight for the Tanzania Premier League title.
The game of tomorrow is one among tough games we have, but we understand the importance of each game. And as Simba Sports Club, we are still focused on our goal of becoming champions this season. We hope so. We're ready for the game.
If Simba beats Ihefu, it'll close the gap to arch rivals Young Africans with 4 points before the Lock-Ons in a titanic clash to be played at Benjamin Mkapa Stadium on April 20th. Tanzanians have been urged to wear traditional designs which produce stunning stylish clothes made by using Maasai fabrics to promote Tanzania traditionally and internationally. Speaking during the Swahili Barca show held in Dar es Salaam, Chinese model Elizabeth Murambo says clothes made by Maasai fabrics are very attractive and can be used to promote Tanzanian traditions globally.
Oh, this is something I really love. I like it. I love it. And this is something that I have really been looking for. Thanks to the very wonderful designer, Mr. Pachichi. And this is a very nice design. It symbolizes Tanzania Maasai style. And it is also very Swahili, yes. And we love Tanzania to go out of the border, to go abroad, to go international.
That is sports news. And now, before we conclude the news bulletin, here's an update concerning the upcoming changes in weather, whereby Tanzania Meteorological Authority, TMA, has issued an alert putting 14 regions on alert as heavy rains are forecasted across Tanzania from tonight. The advisory issued by TMA mentions the regions to include Dar es Salaam, Tanga, Morogoro, Lindi, Mtwara, Pwani, as well as Unguja and Pemba. And that marks the end of the news bulletin for tonight. Join us again next week, same time, same place. On behalf of the team, I am Teddy Mparanyanga. Have a lovely, lovely night.